Okay, the time is 2:05, so I think right now is a decent time to start. If more people join throughout the session, it's going to be fine. I'll remind everyone at the end that this was recorded, so we can always view at a later date. Welcome to everyone who's here. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Madison, and I'm a PhD student here at the University of Wolverhampton, and I study specifically music. So this session is going to be specifically about what I'm studying, which is soundscapes. And so I'm just going to review soundscapes and multimedia and reimagining spaces that we exist in, whether that's physical space or virtual space. So if you ever need to get in contact with me, you're more than welcome to email me, m.s.miller@wolv.ac.uk. Yes, feel free to email me if you'd like. Of course, I'm going to show my social media and stuff throughout the presentation just to incorporate the multimedia element. So you're more than welcome to connect with me on social media as well. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started today. Once again, this is just going to review soundscapes and multimedia. So just a bit of background on me. I am the PhD researcher, like I mentioned before, and that's a creative practice research, which is like a combination of fusing theory with art-based practice. So it's like learning and discovering theory on one side, but then putting it into practice on the other and seeing if it can be implemented into the real world. But as far as like academic side, that's pretty much where I'm at. But as far as like the practical side of things, I've been into photography for over 10 years now. When I first started getting into photography, I was pretty much self-taught with Photoshop, all that stuff. And I was really interested in 35 millimeter film. So I have experience with developing my own photos and I miss that. I wish I had a dark room where I live. That would be like one of my goals. But yes, I also worked as a professional photographer, whether that was freelance. I've done weddings, senior portraits, things like that. But I've also done studio work, which has been really nice because I was able to learn different techniques like lighting and more editing, etc. Even posing, which has been interesting. From a freelancer's perspective, I kind of just shot photos naturally and authentically, but with studio work, that's whenever I really learned how to manipulate people or objects I was photographing. And I've also worked in media for a few years as well. I worked at a magazine for about a year and a half as an image researcher, and currently I am a marketing coordinator, so I've been doing that position for about 3-4 years going on now. So yes, I definitely have a lot of experience when it comes to the media and communication side of the creative practice. I'm really into photography, as you can see. And yeah, those are my social media handles: Opulence on Instagram. No, sorry, core.opulence on Instagram, and just regular Opulence on Twitter. But yeah, you can find me on YouTube as well. And I also like to use the hashtag Opulence. That is the name of my research project, but I plan on just using that as just my social media presence, because it is important to establish yourself as a brand. As we all know, I'm sure we're all familiar with social media influencers, which I wouldn't consider myself one. But it's all about having the same aesthetic or having a brand, and so this is just the brand name that I have. It basically comes from a song I was inspired by called Opulence, and it's just something that's been with me for a long time, about 5 years now. So yes, we're going to go ahead and dive in to the actual presentation. So this is just a general overview of what I'm going to be discussing today. Exactly what are soundscapes. So we're just going to explore what soundscapes are, how to use the creative investigation, which is what I was discussing earlier, fusing theory with actual practice. And then I'll show you the process of making a soundscape, and then I'll show you what I do using multimedia, and then I'll give you examples of my work. So exactly what is a soundscape? You're more than welcome to type in the chat box if you have ideas of what you think a soundscape is. And there's really no concise answer, just because different disciplines have different views of it. So if you're an architecture-based person, you're going to think of soundscapes when it comes to echoes bouncing off of a building, or how to reduce city noise. If you're a psychologist, you're going to think of soundscapes as something you can manipulate in order to probe the listener into having certain responses or certain reactions to their environment. In my case, with my research, I kind of look at all these different elements, and I've kind of come up with an idea of what soundscapes are, but like I said, there's really no one definition. So soundscapes are a lot like a landscape. So you know how when you look at a farmland, you can see visually what the farmland looks like. Well, a soundscape is just the sound of that specific environment, whether that's physical or virtual, which I'll go into later on. And so it just describes the audio sounds that are going on around you. And I believe that would also include silence. Silence is a form of this as well. So a good example of experiencing silence would be maybe you're taking an exam and you just hear nothing, maybe like a tap of a pencil. So that could be the soundscape of an exam environment. So in other words, a soundscape is a sound or combination of sounds that form or arise from immersive environments. So whenever you're in a certain space, you definitely get a sense of what it sounds like audibly. So I'm just going to go into it a little bit deeper here. Sounds can be used as representations of places. So if you ever listen to music, like rap music, they often use like police sirens or something in some of their songs. And so that would be an audible representation of the kind of vibe that they're trying to emit from the sound or from the music. And so we associate certain locations to have specific sounds. So if you think of a library, for instance, just sit here and think of a library, what would you think it sounds like? Well, I think all of us as collective consciousness or like our cultural understanding of libraries is you're going to hear whispers, maybe you'll hear the turning of pages. I think culture and personal experience definitely establish our understanding of sounds and our expectations for whenever we experience physical or virtual environments. We have certain expectations to go into. So if we are entering a really busy city, of course, we're going to hear a lot of traffic. Whereas if we're taking a drive in the countryside, we might hear birds chirping or wind blowing. So we're just going to go ahead and give more examples just to kind of paint a picture of what soundscapes are. I have an example of a beach, so waves crashing or seagulls. And what I'm going to do is just play a bit of, a beach soundscape, just so you get an idea. And even though this is in video format that I'm going to be presenting to you, keep in mind that soundscapes don't have to be recorded. They don't have to be presented in a virtual way. Pardon me. They don't have to be presented in a virtual way. This is just a way of me representing what a soundscape is. But of course, you can experience a genuine soundscape if you're actually standing on the beach. Okay, so I figure we all pretty much know what a beach sounds like. Let me just go ahead and stop sharing this video. But you could hear in that sound clip seagulls, wind, and water and waves crashing. So that's to be expected whenever we go to a beach, right? Now, what's expected when we go to a shopping center? You might hear conversations. You might even hear like the radio playing. Typically, they like to play radios just to kind of add to the background spaces of shopping centers. And of course, I did give the example of the library earlier. So those are really easy soundscapes to kind of pick up on and understand. But then we have these practical soundscapes, which I mentioned just briefly before, whether that's like city planning or architecture or for business or psychology. And what's really interesting is sound is one of those things that impacts us on a psychological level. And so they've certainly picked up on this in different fields to try to manipulate sound to better our experience, whether that's living in a big city. So they might plant a whole bunch of trees around really busy highways to kind of like suppress the sounds of traffic from bouncing off of the apartment buildings so you can get to sleep easier at night. From interesting business perspectives. Say some business wants to increase their customer traffic, and they want to get more money, make more money. So what they're going to do is analyze their customers' behavior, and they're going to incorporate certain sounds that would elicit responses from somebody to maybe want to purchase more or shop faster. So what they like to do, for instance, if they're looking to close their business, say it's 9 o'clock and everyone's ready to go home, sometimes they'll actually speed up the radio and make the songs slightly faster just to give that sense of urgency to the customer to leave. So it's like a nonverbal way of communicating, hey, it's time to go, we're closing now. So those are just different examples of how sound can be manipulated in the soundscape sense to elicit certain responses from people. And what's really interesting is there is like this basic part of the brain in the brainstem, and so it gives like adrenaline to us. So that primitive part of our brain often responds to, I would say, startling sounds. So that's like dropping a cup on the ground or honking your horn, like very startling sounds. We have that initial adrenaline rush too. So there definitely is psychological elements to soundscapes. And in some cases, I'm not sure if any of you like to meditate here, but in some cases, soundscapes are used for meditation purposes, or even to help reduce stress or to provoke sleep. So if you ever type into YouTube, which I'll go into virtual spaces, if you ever type into YouTube dreamscapes, for instance, that's another subgenre of soundscapes. A dreamscape is what you can use to help fall asleep. And it's really interesting how many different soundscapes you can truly find to help calm your nerves. So yes, I would say at virtual spaces, YouTube is one of those places you can certainly go to get an idea of this, or just to have background music. Sometimes people like listening to soundscapes just to study or to focus. And I've definitely noticed that there has been an increase in people missing cafes since the pandemic. So there's been different virtual spaces created specifically for the cafe ambience experience. And so there's different websites you can go on to manipulate the sounds on your own. So you can say like how loud the barista is, how loud the chattering is, etc. But then of course on YouTube, everything's already pre-made from the artist. So you can always find like classic jazz cafes or something like that if you need something to listen to while you're studying. But there's also other virtual spaces, and I'm not sure how often we actually think of these as soundscapes, but they truly are. You'll see these a lot in movies and TV shows. Sound is certainly used to, like I said before, elicit responses from the viewer, the listener. And so if somebody is trying to create an environment and really immerse the watcher into this environment, they're going to use certain sounds that provoke what they're trying to achieve. So I have an example here of the Blair Witch Project, the video game. I'm not sure if any of you guys like playing video games, but this one is a pretty spooky one. So of course, their goal is to create some sort of soundscape environment that provokes eeriness, spookiness. And what's really interesting about this soundtrack is they also incorporated this element of binaural beats. So it's best to listen to with headphones. Unfortunately, if you don't have headphones, that's quite all right. So we are just going to listen to it here, and you can experience the eeriness, the creepiness, the spookiness of the Blair Witch soundtrack from the video game. Okay, yes. I think that's enough because it's starting to get my heart racing with that. That is such a spooky game, but I love it as well. I'm just going to go back to my presentation really quickly, but I think this is really important element because it really shows that sound and visuals, whether that's photography, movies, TV shows, video games, whatever, can really fuse together to create these virtual spaces. And that's another element of research that I'm exploring now. So I'm sure whenever you watch TV today, you're going to pick up more on, wow, this is going to be that I can identify this as a soundscape because of this presentation. So that's pretty exciting. I do see some chats coming in on the side, and I really like the meditation and ambient soundscapes apps. There's certainly a lot out there. I have this free app, I can't remember the name of it, but I can manipulate, birds chirping, chimes, a whole bunch of stuff. And it's really nice because it doesn't run off data. So like when I'm using like the London Underground, I can listen to it and not have to be paying for full version for something. ASMR videos have grown in popularity. I agree with that. I would say ASMR isn't necessarily a soundscape, but there's certain elements that definitely overlap. I would say, for instance, the page turning at the library would definitely be an ASMR thing, but it really depends on the person who's listening to it. Some people might find turning a page annoying, and so because it's not a pleasurable experience to them, it can't be classified ASMR to them. All right, so let's go ahead and just move forward here with what I'm going to talk about. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to discuss is why a creative investigation? Why is it important to fuse theory with practice? And I would say in academia, this is a relatively new thing that's been going on. And I would say it's really important to kind of fuse theory with practice because it is contemporary, it's innovative, and it's creative. I feel like you really need to keep up with change, and media is something that changes pretty quickly. It's crazy how within this time I've been alive, how much a cell phone has even changed. And so I would say it's definitely important to do this because, one, it gives a snapshot of where we are at today. So my work and what I'm doing gives a snapshot of where soundscapes are at today, and it kind of gives like like a documentary style of what's going on. But, years from now, I can look back at my work and see, wow, things have really changed. And I think for sure things are changing now. I'm not really focusing much on the virtual reality aspect of things, but I could imagine that, the cheaper VR headsets get, the more common it's going to be for people to use. And that's just another element of an immersive experience that is just different than watching it on TV or watching it on your phone. So I'm going to just talk about playing around with sounds, and I'm just going to read this little blurb here. Music is the same way, or even sounds, noise. We associate a song to a past memory. We even use noise to associate with emergencies like fire alarms or police sirens. Music, noise, or sound provoke nearly the same responses as language through these associations. So I did talk about that before with the cultural representations or just our personal experiences. And I would say because of the pandemic, I had to make a lot of my music from home. I wasn't able to go out and do field recordings. If you don't know what a field recording is, that's just whenever I take a microphone out into a physical environment and record the sounds that I'm hearing. That's just a field recording. You can do that with video as well. It doesn't have to be just audio. So during the pandemic, I was able to play around with just everyday objects from my house. And it's funny because these are all sounds we're familiar with, stirring a teacup, clicking a mouse, clicking a pen I have here, hitting spoons together. These are all sounds that we're certainly familiar with, and they can provoke different kinds of memories. They can have certain reactions. We could either hate the sound, love the sound, and everything in between. And so I was really exploring how to manipulate the sounds that I have in my own personal house environment and how I can use these sounds to elicit different responses from the listener. My primary goal with my research is to elicit like positive responses, and now positive might mean something different to everybody, but my goal is to kind of help relieve stress or just help somebody relax. But a lot of the sounds that I have originally started with are kind of jarring sounds, and they're kind of spooky, kind of creepy. And I think the reason why I'm exploring all types of sounds is really to determine with the practice-based stuff what sounds are more appropriate to put into my end product. And that is something that involves the creative practice as well, because here I have different theories, different psychological theories, musicology theories, etc., philosophical theories, different theories are coming at me left, right, and center about sound. And it's really a matter of boiling down what works for me. And I would say that's a really fun part of the creative practice, because even though I can take a snapshot of Soundscapes at the time, I can even take a snapshot of my own creative practice at that time. So within this 2 years of me doing my PhD research, I can really see the amount I've changed even throughout these 2 years with my art. So yeah, it's been really cool so far. So I'm just going to talk about the process of Soundscapes, but before I do that, I'm just going to read some of the comments and see if anything is popping up. Okay, so I see, is field recording fun? Is there any special recording techniques that are good? Well, I'll talk about that right now with the Soundscape process. So I would say overall, I find a lot of joy in field recording. That's just because, this is sound a little lame, but I really like walking. It's one of my hobbies. So I really enjoy walking, especially in nature. And I like just recording sounds while I'm taking walks, for instance. I have little experience recording things in like public spaces, like a cafe or you know, a grocery store or something like that. I think I like to respect people's privacy, and so that's why I haven't necessarily done that yet. But most of my field recordings have either been done in my home or just in nature and open spaces like that. But I would say, yes, it's definitely been fun. And I also pair my Soundscape process with photography, and I can go into that a bit more. And of course, I love photography, so it's definitely fun. So the Soundscape process is relatively easy. You know, you don't really need to have the best up-to-date equipment to do this. If you're looking to learn and just explore your creativity, you can use something as easy as the microphone on your cell phone. And I'm not saying that's like the worst thing, because cell phones nowadays are really, you know, up to date, and so the microphone can work really well. And if you're looking for like the surround sound experience, you can always upload it to like Audacity or BandLab or something and manipulate it so it's not just like a mono microphone experience. But yeah, that's basically what I do. Is I'll just take a whole bunch of field recordings from, you know, my walk or whatever that I did that day, insert it into Audacity. I've been using BandLab a lot more. That is also free, and it comes with, BandLab also comes with, I'm sorry, I use Cakewalk now. And Cakewalk is free to download. And what I really like about Cakewalk is they also have free loops and beat patterns and things that you can play around with as well, like a huge library of just free open source sounds that you can play around with. So even if you can't go do a field recording, they already have pre-programmed like water noises and bird noises and stuff that you can use in Cakewalk. So yeah, you can also find different free online samples to mix as well. I can't remember some of their names, but if you just type in like royalty-free music on Google, you can certainly find a lot of different sounds to play around with. And once I'm done playing around with my sounds, kind of experimenting, I do upload my final projects onto my YouTube channel. I don't really get much engagement on my Soundscape videos at the moment, which is fine. But I'm hoping once I start finalizing my ones that I'm submitting with my actual PhD, that I can get more engagement. And I should have a really good one uploaded towards the end of June, which I'm looking forward to. But I think right now is a really good moment for me to mention, I'm sorry I didn't mention it before, Soundscapes can last different durations. Some of my soundscapes, I'm just exploring, you know, playing around with music and stuff, so it might only be a minute long, but other ones I have an hour long, and if you type into Google, you might find ones 13 hours long. I'm sorry, if you type into YouTube, you'll find some that are like 13 hours long. So soundscapes they always vary in length and stuff like that as well. So if you're looking to play around with sound, never really be too hesitant. Oh, is this too short? Is this too long? I mean, this genre, it really doesn't matter. I will certainly insert the link into the chat box when I have a moment. Sorry, I don't have it on hand right now, but I will give you guys my link to my YouTube channel. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk about the photography elements that I have. It's one of those things, maybe if I had experience with video, I would be incorporating video, but I just don't. And video isn't necessarily something that, I don't know, it's just never something I've been interested in doing as much, but photography is definitely where my heart is. And so I like using photography as the visual representation, the visual meaning. It helps elicit the imagination of the viewer, and it also inspires interaction. And so what I mean by that is sound, I feel like, does its job. Sound can certainly have the representation and the meaning and elicit the imagination, but I feel like we all are different learners. Some of us are visual, some of us aren't. And so I think incorporating both these elements just kind of solidifies the project that I'm doing and the emotions I'm trying to evoke from the listener. And at the same time, this is an element of who I am, and I would much prefer doing a PhD project that is something that I enjoy doing, and photography is definitely one of those things. I have a really, I would call it an old camera. I use the same camera I've been using my whole photography career, Canon EOS Rebel. I bought it when I was 18 years old. It was my birthday present to myself, and I use it to this day. But of course, I mean, if I'm in a pinch, I'll use my cell phone, and I have experience with film as well. But I've been practicing with the disposable cameras, and that's been really fun. I think disposable cameras is just like a dying art right now, but I think it's fun to just kind of revitalize things, and I don't know, it's just been really nice. But yes, using these visual elements certainly improves, in my opinion, the experience, because it really sets the stage. Now, one of my projects, I actually put text over top, and I was using sound, photography, and text to drive the point home. And I actually got feedback, and they were saying, well, the text might be too much. And the more I thought about it, the more I agree. I think that the more elements you add kind of takes away the imagination aspect of the listener. My goal isn't to make somebody feel exactly the way I feel when I listen to my music. My goal is to create a space where they can use their imagination and kind of get from point A to point B all on their own. And so that's why I stopped using the text elements in order to, thank you for subscribing. That's why I use the text elements I don't use the text elements anymore to elicit any sort of responses. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk about photography a bit more. Throughout this presentation, all the photos you've seen so far have been works of mine. It's just been one of those things that even if I didn't have like a really good camera, I think I would still be doing photography. And oftentimes I'm always like taking clicks on my cell phone. And even though I'm kind of unhappy with some of the quality, I do use like editing software on my phone. I use GlitchCam a lot. I paid for the version of GlitchCam, but I also use Adobe Spark, which is absolutely free. Adobe Spark is really nice because I can do like text elements on my Instagram, and I'll get a little bit more into how I use Instagram for my project as well. But yes, I believe that photography and music are very similar because they are both forms of artistic expression that appeal to large audiences, and so that's why I like pairing them together. So I'm just going to talk about exactly where my research fits. I know that I talked about soundscapes a lot, but soundscapes is just an overarching term, like a giant umbrella term that involves a lot of other things. And so some other terms that really pair with what I'm doing here are audio and sound walks. So it's basically just taking the listener on a sonic journey or a walk through. It's kind of like a guided meditation, but instead of having someone's voice guide you through the sound, I'm using sound marks or sound bites or sound clips, familiar sounds to walk somebody through the process. So you can see here, music narratives is another term. I would say ambience is a big term included with my work because sometimes soundscape and ambience overlaps a lot. And you can see that in cases of study music, for instance, or even that Blair Witch soundtrack that I shared with you. There's a lot of ambient sounds, undistinguishable sounds that really create the environment. And then, of course, the sound posts and the sound marks I was talking about, the kind of like traffic lights, just like directional points in the music, and then field recordings as well is included. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and read the chats here quickly. Sorry, it's really hard for me to do two things at once. Do I collab with people that have videography? The answer is I haven't. I've only ever done collaborations on a photography level, and I think that's because a lot of my friends only do photography. I'm open to collaborations. I would absolutely love to do some video. And what's really interesting is, even though I say I don't do video, I've certainly done stop motions before, which is, I would consider maybe a form of video, which is me taking a whole bunch of still shots, putting them together, and then creating a moving image from that. So, I am open to certainly collaborating with people, but it's just a matter of, I guess, hanging around people that do that, or getting the invite on I have on my website, people can contact me if they ever want to, but yeah, all my social media is public. So if anybody ever wants to collab, that I have no problem with that. Okay, so we're going to talk about my most recent work, which is my cafe ambient soundscape. And so this is a field recording from my kitchen. And I just laugh because I think it's a little bit funny, but this was inspired because of me personally missing the cafes during lockdown, just the whole experience. As a student, I don't live on campus, and so oftentimes I would go to like Starbucks or whatever just to do my studying, and I really missed having that. So I played around with, boiling water at my house, pouring the coffee into my cup, recording what the stirring sounded like, all that stuff, and I was able to create a soundscape that kind of embodies my kitchen, but I wanted it to be like an alternate reality kind of soundscape. I didn't want it to be an everyday kind of thing you hear at your house or a cafe. So I'm going to share with you, let me see if I can find it. Yep. I'll share with you now kind of a snippet of what I'm talking about. And so this is basically just me recreating a space. So this is an example of reimagining and recreating a space. So I took my kitchen, I took the concept of a cafe, and I was able to recreate it to kind of be this alternate reality cafe experience. Okay, but yeah, you can always check out my YouTube just to hear more of that clip. I think it's only about 3 minutes long. I didn't really make it too long to listen to. But yeah, basically, like I said, the inspiration for that was because of the pandemic. I was just trying to recreate and reimagine here. But yes, that was sounds of me making and creating my own coffee in my own house. And so what I'm going to do is talk about how I took the photo, which is the cover photo for that. It took about 50 different shots, and I had a concept of creating this image. And what's funny is the glass mug that you see in the image, I had to actually go out and buy because I don't have any glass. I use ceramic mugs, but I wanted the coffee to be the main focus, and I figured having the glass would make it a lot easier to obviously see the coffee. And then I paired it with baklava just because I love baklava, and it helped kind of break up just the sole focus of the coffee. And you can see these are just example images that I have. These are all files. I took about 50 different images, and I used black background and white background. A black background, I mean, you guys don't have to be like professionals here. It's fine, you can hide it. So I'll tell you the secret is I used a black scarf that I have as that background. And for the white background, I just used, my wall. So you don't need to have like super professional equipment to get these shots. And if you ever feel insecure about, your creativity, you certainly don't have to because you have all the tools you need to be creative. It's just a matter of trying and trying, you know what I mean? So yeah, I used Lightroom and Photoshop to edit the photo, and I'll just slide back just so you can see. I don't have the full photo here, unfortunately, but you can see I manipulated the colors a lot. So my goal was to create an alternate reality, and to do that, I decided to take out the color of the images. So there's only three main colors. It's relatively neutral. It's the brown, the black, and the white. I figured if I kept it in color, it would make it feel like too much of the real world or too much of this world, and I just wanted it to be otherworldly. So I think I was able to achieve that pretty well. And I think it turned out great. I'm really happy with this piece. But of course, there's pieces that I have on my YouTube channel or just that I haven't even posted that are pieces I'm not proud of or I don't really like, but they were certainly useful because I needed to practice in order to, get better. Whenever I went into my PhD, I didn't really know much about music, and so I've been learning as I go. I've been taking singing lessons. I've been taking piano lessons, so I've been really making an effort to get better and improve my music ability. And I certainly don't come from a music background, so I don't know the terminology and things like that. And I'm just telling you that it's okay if you don't feel like you know everything about your subject. You just kind of have to go in and practice, and these things will come as you go. Oh, okay, yes, we already did listen to my alternate cafe. All right, so I do have another example, and this is a longer example that I have. This is an hour-long piece, and this is called the Heavy Rain Piano Soundscape. And so this is a field recording from a walk that I took, and it was really funny because during this walk, it's typical British weather. It was fine, and then all of a sudden, torrential downpour. So I took advantage of it, and I took photos as I took my walk. And I also recorded some of the heavy rain. So I'll go ahead and share what that sounds like. Okay, so I think that gives you just a general idea of what that is. I'm not going to make you listen to the whole hour-long thing, but once again, you can see here's different examples of the raw images that I have. You can tell that the green is less vibrant in these photos, and that's because I used Lightroom and Photoshop to heighten the color and really make it stand out and pop. In this photo set, I took over 70 images. And yeah, I mean, this is just something I really enjoy doing. So this to me isn't time consuming or anything like that. It is a joy for me to do all this stuff. I do see a question coming in, and it says, where is it? When mixing the material, how do you go about it, and how about the editing process? So even though, like I said before, I'm not from like a musical background, even though I love karaoke and I've been singing forever, it's always just been just for fun. I've never actually implemented it into my media work until my PhD. And so when it comes to making music, I guess I don't necessarily have a composer's mindset where I could just think of different compositions right off the bat and just fuse them together. My my process is a little bit more organic than that. So basically what I do is I'll go out and record sounds, and then I'll import them all into Cake Lab or whatever, and I'll listen to which sounds that I like, and then I just start piecing things together. It's never really a linear process for me, and there's been a lot of trials and errors with these in particular, the ones that I've shown you. I would practice with different, piano, and I would try to incorporate other elements. Sometimes I felt like it was just too much. Like I would have maybe 5 or 6 different elements, and I'm just like, you know what, this is kind of taking away from what I'm really trying to do. And so it's a matter of just practice, trial and error. So I would say, yeah, my process is definitely very organic. I guess not typical, but that's okay because it's just a matter of doing the creative practice and learning as you go. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk about the multimedia journey and why I think it's important. Like I said, you really have to keep up with change, and you're not required to share your work on social media or use media. I mean, you can do the traditional route of doing museums, things like that. But I would say if you're looking to get an audience, it might be best to do multimedia, and the internet is a great way to do that, and certainly because it's free. But yeah, multimedia art became a fusion of creative talents and digital knowledge, so it improves communication and collaboration. And I'm sure we've all heard communication and collaboration this whole pandemic, because it's been one of those things really driven home by Microsoft Teams. But I mean, it's true in some regard. You don't necessarily have to be in physical environments to experience these soundscapes, and that's what I really like, is that if I, as an artist, ever wanted to do a physical soundscape, I have the option of doing it. But say, for instance, my listeners don't want or can't or are unable to travel, I really like giving them the option of doing it from the comfort of their own home. So yeah, you're not just limited to museums and art galleries because of this. And what's really cool is, I know Bjork did, I don't know if you guys listen to Bjork, but I think in 2016 or so, she did one of those music videos where it's like a 360 music video. You can find it on YouTube, and as you turn your phone, the landscape changes with it. So there's definitely a lot of interactive elements that you can play around with. That isn't just, just slapping your stuff on a website. You can do Instagram, YouTube, play around with virtual reality. All right, let's see what my next slide is. I can't see it, it's still loading. Okay, yes, so these are the other platforms I was talking about. You can see here just a screenshot of my Instagram. And so I'll talk about the text elements that I have. Because my research was primarily inspired by meditation music, I really like the idea of bringing calm and peace to people. And so on my Instagram, what I like to do is do one post of a photo, and then the next post will be text, and the next post will be a photo. So it just kind of creates a cohesive virtual reality, a cohesive multimedia piece. And so the way I create this is using the Adobe Spark, which is free. You can use university account or whatever to sign up for it. It's absolutely free. Just download it right onto your phone, or you can even download it onto your laptop. And it has all these elements imported into it already. It has the icons, the text, everything that you need. It even has royalty-free images. So if you don't have images of your own, you can use those. And this is great for creating any kind of digital content, whether that's marketing something, or if you just want to do the motivational quotes or the words of affirmations that I do. And I think this adds another element to my work, because if, say, somebody isn't interested in listening to soundscapes, they can still find the modes of relaxation or stress reliefs through just the visual elements alone. I do use Instagram Reels, but I don't use any of my soundscapes on the Instagram Reels, but I use my videos, and I've been playing around only this past 2 months or so with making TikToks and short video clips less than 20 seconds. So if you check out the Reels, you'll pretty much see what I have on my TikTok. Some of it is stuff that, is normal. It's not really related to my PhD stuff or my research. Other stuff is primarily the words of affirmations, where you can see me recording. I like to record flowers and nature and stuff. And I really like TikTok because you can easily manipulate the 20-second videos to the way you need it to be. And then there is my YouTube channel as well. When I first started my YouTube channel, I was trying to figure out exactly my style, I guess. And so a lot of the beginning elements of my YouTube channel incorporate royalty-free music and royalty-free images. But as I've progressed with the YouTube channel, I've incorporated solely using my own sounds and my own photography. And I definitely want to keep it that way just because, I mean, this is just what I like to do. I don't really need to borrow from anybody else. But if you ever need to do that, I mean, you don't have to feel bad about it because it just is a stepping stone to where you want to go. So I would definitely encourage you, if you're interested in just exploring different sounds and different visuals, can find a lot of free royalty-free things on the internet. So that pretty much ends everything that I was talking about today. You can find me on Facebook, but I'm not really active on there, honestly. But I'm mostly active on my Twitter account and my Instagram. So you can find me on Core Opulence on those, and of course my YouTube channel. So yeah, that ends my presentation. I'll just go ahead and see if we have any more people interacting with me. You're more than welcome to ask me questions. You know, we're here for another 5-10 minutes, so if you'd like to ask me questions, I'm here. Oh, I do. I have, what mic did you use if that was raining? Okay, I just use my cell phone, and I have an old phone. I have the Galaxy S8. I literally just use the recording app on my phone to record. You know, if I lived closer to campus, I would use recording equipment because you can rent stuff out at the university. You can certainly practice and rent things out with them, like rent the proper microphones and stuff like that. But because I live about 2.5 hours away, it's just inconvenient for me. So yeah, I just use my phone. And I don't think it really affects the sound quality too much, just because whenever you upload onto YouTube, it compacts the sound anyways. Maybe if I used something that didn't compact sound like SoundCloud, it would be different. But the issue with SoundCloud is you don't necessarily get the opportunity to have the visual component with it. You can upload photos, but it doesn't have the full impact that I'm looking for. But yes, thank you so much for following and subscribing me. I feel like a YouTuber saying that. But yeah, I really appreciate your support. I'll be sure to check it out and follow you guys back. Let's see if we have any more messages coming in. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, I'm still open to questions. More than welcome to ask me anything about my work. I mean, this really goes to show you that if you're thinking of a PhD, you can really study whatever you want. It's not just like limited to, I guess, standard things like, I don't know, like science and stuff like that. You can really do arts-based research. Thank you, Lamar. I really appreciate that. It took me a long time to get comfortable with sharing my work. I don't know if any of you in the creative fields are like that as well, but I was very nervous and scared to share my stuff. But like I said, it just takes a little bit of exposure and just practicing and putting yourself out there to really get comfortable with what you're doing and what you're talking about. Yes. All right. It says multiple users are typing. Oh, thank you, Jamie. I really appreciate it. It is really interesting. Like I said, it really goes to show you exactly what you can do to explore things. I mean, art is all around us, and like I said earlier, soundscapes are all around us. Even silence is a soundscape, and I think these are interesting things that you can explore on your own, in your own time. And as far as multimedia stuff goes, really the sky is the limit, because now TikTok and Instagram, they give you all these abilities to play around with things. And, I mean, you don't have to worry about being an influencer, right? You don't have to worry about getting a whole bunch of likes and follows. You just have fun with the experience and just really grow your craft. So yeah, I don't see anybody else typing. So, oh wait, I do see someone else typing. I just got a big one. Okay, hang on. Have you managed to use your work for therapeutic work? And if so, what were your findings? Wow, okay, I'm surprised I didn't talk about that. Thanks, James, for asking. So I actually interviewed a music therapist for my research, and she's really lovely, and she was able to tell me how people use sounds to communicate. And so oftentimes she works with people with schizophrenia or autism, and what they do is, in a traditional therapy setting, if they can't communicate, they refer them to the music therapist. And so they use clapping or banging on things. Or they don't even have to use instruments, but sometimes they do provide them. And so the music therapist can determine the thoughts and feelings going on based off of what they hear. So if somebody's like banging really hard, that might mean they're distressed or something like that. So yeah, talking with her has been really good. I feel like there is overlap. Unfortunately, because my research is creative based, I'm not a clinician, I'm not a psychologist, so I can't be the end all be all person to say music can improve your mental state or something like that. I don't have the capacity because that's not what my degree is in, unfortunately. It's just an art-based degree. So basically what I can say is music can provoke this in certain people, or certain people had this response or that response. I can describe what people think and feel, but I can't say like general statements like music can help you with your anxiety, unfortunately. Good question, though. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, I don't see anything else. I don't see anybody else typing. These are all really good questions. Thank you so much, everyone, for being so open-minded and receptive to what I'm talking about. It's been a really good journey, and I'm looking forward to creating more as I go. Like I said, I'm going to be posting another one later on in June, and this piece is going to be more towards my PhD research. I don't really have an idea of what it's going to be yet. I have yet to go on my walk and be inspired, but I should say like that's another part of my creative process is I don't necessarily plan things before I go. I just pack my camera, pack my phone, and walk. And if something inspires me while I'm out and about, then that's what it does. Sometimes I do travel places. It's not just walking. Like I do travel specifically to places. There's this one Epping Forest soundscape I created, and I traveled to Epping, which is like in London. It's a forest in London. Now that place, like I traveled to specifically, but the goal wasn't necessarily to create a soundscape while I was there. It was just to have a walk there as well. So yeah, it's been really fun. Yes, that is my website. Thank you. CoreOpulenceMusic.com is my website. Yes. Work in progress as well. Everything on my website is things I created on my own. All the photography you see is from me. And that's just the way it is. I do pay for this website. I think I pay like 15 quid a year for it. It is a WordPress-based website, but you can use Wix or whatever you like. And of course, you can do the free trials of websites as well. But when you do free trials, what it does is it annoyingly makes the URL say like WordPress or something. It makes it well known that you're not paying for it. And I simply just don't really like the way that looks. But like I said, if you're looking to get started with even making your own website, why not try the free version, test out your abilities, play around with the layout, all that other stuff. Lamar asks, do you tend to go to different countries after and COVID and record? So I am actually going back to, I'm from America, I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm going back to Pennsylvania in July, hopefully with the restrictions and stuff like that. It's still a possibility for me to travel, and I will be taking a road trip from Pennsylvania to Florida, which will take about 2 days. And so I am taking my camera with me, and I'll be recording during that process. Unfortunately, throughout my whole research period, I haven't really been able to travel to different countries because of COVID, but now that the borders are opening, etc., it seems like it's going to be more doable for me. And yeah, I'll be spending like a month in America, so I should be getting a lot of really good stuff to record. Yeah. Okay. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's just pretty much like a chat between us and me and all that other stuff. So it was kind of like an informal session. So I thank you once again for joining me. I hope you were able to learn stuff. And the session was recorded, so I'm sure you'll be able to go back and review anything if you're looking to learn a little bit more. All right, Richard, I think at this time I'm pretty much done. We're pretty much at the 3 o'clock mark here. Okay, cool. I guess I can just close out of this session, everyone. Yep, you're welcome. Bye. Thanks. Thank you so much for coming.